Hello, and welcome to the 8th Bit. I'm Missing Pixel. And that's the new name. We talked about it in the last episode, and we got a lot I want to talk about today. We are going to start with the exciting world of gaming right now. Did you sense any sarcasm? Because there's a lot of sarcasm in there. Gaming right now is not the same for me as what it was. And that's not to say there's no good games out, but there's not a wide selection right now. I've been playing games for, over a decade, which might not sound like a lot, but, considering I'm 21, that's quite a while. And I used to play them every single day, more than, 10 to 12 hours. I'd stay up all night, I'd be tired, days off from school, I'd play them. It was insane. And now, even in the free time I have, I just don't have the same kind of desire to play. But it's not an age thing. It's that games just don't excite me. The only games I'm playing right now really are Rainbow Six Siege. I'm kind of slowly making my way back into Destiny 2, but it's, slowly but surely. I've abandoned Smite, which is a game I've spent countless hours on, really. It was one of my favorite games, but it's just been driven into the ground. And I'm replaying a lot of old games, and I'm still playing Mount & Blade. And it doesn't sound like the most exciting selection because there's nothing out that's any good. Games come out unpolished, they come out on bandwagons, it's just not a good time right now. Fortnite is great for some people. I've really tried to get into it, and I love what it's done for gaming. It's done really great things, especially with, Twitch and Ninja, and the amount of popularity it's brought back into gaming. It's kind of like reignited the fires, but it's done it for battle royales. And battle royales are fun and everything, and it's exciting there's a new genre, but every single game does not need to have a battle royale to be good. Fortnite is great. It's free to play. It knows its audience. It makes money. It has a fair free-to-play model. It brought attention to gaming. PUBG is moderately okay. I've played it more than I've played Fortnite. I like it more than I like Fortnite, but the game is so poorly optimized, it's hard to even believe that they charge money for it, honestly. My computer's no slouch, but Nick has a lot of trouble running it. Even the top Twitch streamers or top YouTubers that play it with these beastly computers still are lucky to get over 120 frames at times. It's insane. And then you have all of these bandwagon games like Radical Heights, it's Fortnite. It's a good game, but it's Fortnite. And especially when you dive into the story behind Radical Heights, and it's essentially the people that made Lawbreakers, which was, in their eyes, the adult Overwatch, which, even though it was fun, failed miserably. They made this game called Radical Heights, and it's Fortnite. 150% it is Fortnite. The only difference is their odd vending machine type system, and honestly barely it's even different. Even the maps you can draw similarities between. Then there's Paladins Royale, or what is it? I think it's Paladins Battlegrounds or something like that. I don't know, it's ridiculous. It didn't need it. And honestly, Hi-Rez Studios that made it, they knew they were going to get flack. Whether or not people were right when they say this, Paladins did kind of get the stigma attached to it that it was the knockoff Overwatch or the free Overwatch. And they went and they made a battle royale with a name and logo so derivative of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. It's not even funny, honestly. And the game, I remember maybe 2 weeks ago, I saw a screenshot on Twitter of the game, and from the HUD layout to the look of the character that everyone had to play in the alpha, to the gun, everything, even how the loot seemed to work. The game was Fortnite, just like Radical Heights was Fortnite. And just like when Overwatch came out and there were hero shooters all over the place, I'm not saying it's not okay to, try to get in on this battle royale, but you need to do something original. Or if not original because you don't have the kind of creativity within your team to do that, you need to do something exciting and fun that offers something that these other games don't. For example, Islands of the Nine, that's coming out. It looks great. graphics look good, game looks considerably optimized. I've seen people play it on high settings but still get frame rates that, you know, are desirable. They do a pretty cool team deathmatch type thing before the game while it's finding players, which I personally prefer a lot to the laggy mess of a frame rate that PUBG offers, or the pointless just jumping around that Fortnite offers, which really the only point of that part of Fortnite to me seems to be for players who are stream sniping to walk up to Ninja or Tim the Tatman or whoever and just kind of stand in front of them and make it like, oh hey, I'm watching your stream too. That's really the only point of it. But they do a cool team deathmatch thing, and it runs pretty well, looks fun. And the way the loot in the game works is cool, simple but cool, because you can edit your gun, kind of Homefront-esque, and how you hold it up, or Crysis-esque. And it looks great. Another one coming out I've seen was Darwin Project, and a game's already kind of getting the culling done to it. Unfortunately, it might die, but it had a cool concept of a director, which kind of gave me vibes from, say, Portal. And I'm actually really upset I forgot to jump into it, but now the game's already dying because it's not Fortnite, so I'll never get a chance. While we have games to look forward to, such as, you know, Cyberpunk, Borderlands 3 is being talked about, Destiny 2 is going through a lot of improvements, and Division 2 is going to be announced soon, and I expect Division 2 to be a great game because they've learned so much from the Division, they improved it so much. Even going against what I said in the beginning, it just feels like games are lacking love. By that I mean, games are lacking love in the sense that developers don't want to step outside of a box anymore. I mean, how many new IPs recently succeed? I mean, for that, look no further than Lawbreakers. They took the hero element of, say, Overwatch or Paladins. Not the Paladins is a good example. But they took the idea and they made it adult. They kind of gave it a somewhat more realistic. I say somewhat, only looking at some of the guns in the game, not all. They definitely made it more adult. They went for the cops versus robbers thing, even though that really didn't have anything to do with it, other than an excuse to put a different skin on one character. Because in the game, it was kind of weird. It was basically one character for each team of the hero you picked, and it was just a different version that was either the cop, air quotes, or the robber. It was weird. And the game played sort of similar to, like, Unreal Tournament in terms of speed and the flow of it. It was lacking a lot. Overwatch was a great new IP, but Overwatch was hyped for so long, and it was by Blizzard. It was promoted incredibly. The only way that game could have failed is if they literally didn't try. Otherwise, that game was set. But I mean, it's sequels after sequels after remakes after remakes, and you know, you have God of War, which is kind of a sequel, kind of a remake. You have, oh god, what else is there? You have The Witcher, which was an incredible game, but still just another Witcher game. You have all these Battlefields, all these Call of Duties that just are lacking in direction. But then you have these IPs that are good and new, like, say, Titanfall, and they get thrown off to the side and ignored because they're not a bigger game, but it's Titanfall stomps on a game like Call of Duty. You cannot tell me that Titanfall 2 is not better than Call of Duty World War II, because it is. If Titanfall 2 had not been released in between Battlefield 1 and Call of Duty, Titanfall 2 would have ran away and become a big name. This E3, I need games. I need something different. I don't want Rockstar to announce that Red Dead Redemption 2 is going to have a Battle Royale. I don't want Call of Duty, even though this rumor was already marked false. I don't want Call of Duty to say we're working on a Battle Royale. I don't want Battlefield 5 to say, oh, we have a Battle Royale mechanic coming out. I'm sick of it. I want creativity back. I want originality back. I want new games to play that are going to take my attention, that are going to make me want to grind for these new guns, or make me actually want to spend money on a skin, or make me want to buy a season pass because a DLC doesn't look like nothing. This has kind of turned into a rant, and it didn't make a lot of sense, but I feel like I'm not the only one that feels this way. And there's tons of other games I could have talked about. I could have talked about the lack of content in Sea of Thieves, the lack of content endgame and release Destiny 2, the horrible launch of The Division, the failure of For Honor, that's, again, another Ubisoft game that's just being saved, kind of like Rainbow Six Siege. And I could have talked about how Paladins is this awkward game that Hi-Rez is seemingly just using for money at this point. Look no further for that than the fact that there was a pay-to-win mechanic for a month that they didn't think was going to be an issue somehow. How Smite is a game that isn't necessarily dying, but it's not growing, it's just sitting there. Even MOBAs themselves. MOBAs are on the way out. Who cares about a MOBA if you have a Battle Royale to play? I hope something changes, and I hope something changes soon. Because if it doesn't, I don't know, I might just have to go buy a new Game Boy Advance. So next I want to talk about movies. And how I haven't seen a lot of movies recently. What I actually want to talk about is movie spoilers. I unfortunately had Infinity War ruined for me. It didn't make me feel so good. If you get that reference and you know how broken my heart was. But the thing is, I don't even care anymore. Like, if you don't see a movie the day it comes out, you're gonna have it spoiled. I mean, A Quiet Place got spoiled for me. Infinity War got spoiled for me. I'm more than sure Deadpool 2 is gonna get spoiled for me, and I'm planning on seeing that the day it comes out. It's just, nothing's sacred anymore, you know? Everyone has to ruin something for everybody. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but the reason I bring all this up is because of my excitement for Deadpool 2. But I'm wondering is, Infinity War seems to have crashed records and destroyed stuff. And, you know, Solo, a Star Wars story, I'm not excited for it. It doesn't feel like a Han Solo movie. It feels like a new guy, which should not how that should feel. It should feel, I should be so excited. The only thing I'm excited for in relation to Solo is Donald Glover as Lando. Other than that, I really don't care. And then it's just, Quiet Place looked great, but it got spoiled for me. And you know, it's a couple of weeks past release, so now I kind of see a point. And movies are so expensive for opening nights. I don't have the kind of money for, you know, pre-order opening night tickets for every big release coming out. And it's just like, the reason I bring all this up is because I'm really excited for Deadpool 2. The reason I'm excited for Deadpool 2, which you can honestly kind of see where my head's at lately with what I just talked about in relation to gaming. Deadpool 2 is so original, and I mean, Deadpool's existed for a while, but the movies are just so different than all this other stuff out there. It's dry humor, but they're getting away with it in a movie, and oh man, it's great. Ryan Reynolds is the only Deadpool that there should be. Kind of like Hugh Jackman with Wolverine. I just wish movies could be a surprise still, you know, like, even though I know what happens in Infinity War now, I want to go to Infinity War and be surprised when it turns out that Thanos was just Kanye West the whole time and the Infinity Gauntlet was just his iPhone X that he was using to tweet. I know it's not going to happen, but like, I can dream. And it's like Quiet Place. I want Quiet Place's ending that was spoiled for me to just kind of be a joke, and like get there and like I watch the whole movie, and at the end Dwight just kind of pops around the corner and starts yelling at Jim for pranking him. And then Pam walks in wondering why Jim is cheating on him with this odd Australian woman. I know that's not going to happen, but it's just, again, because things are ruined so quickly, because things aren't sacred, it just kind of lessens the impact these movies have. I mean, I'm sure if I saw Infinity War opening night and I saw what happened, which, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm sure if I had seen what happened, you know, live and in person, I would have had a better reaction, but you can honestly relate it to gaming because nothing is exciting anymore. Nothing's new. It's all the same. Like, I want new stuff, man. I don't want a remake of all these horror movies. I want new stuff like Quiet Place. I don't want Avengers 45 anymore. I'm okay with what happens. I'm aware these are probably me things, but you can find something and relate it to yourself. I mean, think about it like this. When Star Wars Episode 9 comes out, the Skywalker saga is done, which is Episodes 1 through 9. Do you want them to really revisit it and make Star Wars Episode 10 Rey's housemaiden? Or do you want Lord of the Rings, the pedicure of Frodo? Don't you want something new? Don't you want something innovative and exciting? And if they do a remake, don't you want that remake to be different? Or do you just want The Force Awakens, that is A New Hope? And I say that liking The Force Awakens a lot, but that movie is The New Hope. But you just want something different? I mean, if that's a me thing, that's a me thing, and you can disagree with everything I just said, but don't you want entertainers and writers, video game designers to movie producers, don't you want someone to take a creative freedom to make their own personal vision come true, not just something for money? I don't know, maybe it's just me. So let's talk about the paranormal. Cue anxiety music change. Thank you, Miss Editor. Alright, so you guys sent me a lot of really, really great submissions when I asked for them on Facebook and in Discord, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. So I am going to read some of these stories, these paranormal stories, out to you. And unlike I did with Victoria in the last episode, I'm going to read them out, and I'm going to leave it completely up to you on whether or not it's real, fake, believable, a joke. So our first submission that I'm going to read is an anonymous, and she says, okay, here goes nothing, I guess. I don't know how to read someone's email in a character voice, but my great-grandmother's parents came here from Germany in the early 1900s. They owned a farmhouse in rural Missouri, and in the 30s or so, they had two men stay up in the second-story bedrooms. One night, one of the guys took his own life, and something else happened to the other. They had for generations, and still do, hear a pair of shackled feet walking around in the night. Other times they will hear the fatal shot that took the man's life coming from the upstairs room. My family no longer owns the 140-year-old farmhouse. Good on them, man. See, that's what I'm talking about. Get out of the house. Just sell it. Just let it go. And we bless the lady who owns it. I'm not sure if this is a story or just a sign from either side. Most of my family's passed on. All that are left is my grandmother, my parents, and my uncles. Since my grandfather passed in 2006, we have seen numerous families like cardinals hanging all around our homes. Butterflies started coming around after my great-grandmother's death in 2012, and more recently, two hawks, big ones, we feel are representing both of my great-grandfathers from maternal sides. I wonder what these signs could mean, other than a, hey, I'm here. So that's really cool. I think I said this in one of my episodes, but I've heard a lot in my life of people saying that their family shows up in bugs or animals or, you know, certain songs that play in funny times. Another one I have on here, which is kind of similar to this one, which is why I'm reading it next, was somebody saying that there's like an old family car they have. I'm paraphrasing the story because they asked me not to read word for word because it seems like they realized after the fact they used a lot of personal names and stuff. But essentially what happens, they said that they had a family car and the radio didn't work, flat out. It was unplugged because it had made a weird staticky noise, so they just went ahead and disconnected it. But depending on who would get in the car, it would either not play anything or particular songs would come on radio stations. And I don't know how much I believe that because, I mean, it's disconnected. But it sounds really cool. An example they gave was they went to drive the car once to a dance in their high school, and a song came on that was their favorite song at the time, but the radio was still off, but the song was coming out of the speakers. I mean, if that's kind of stuff happens, then awesome. I don't know how much I believe the car one, but the story about, you know, family turning into hawks and cardinals, I like to believe that, personally. I mean, I'm keeping it away from, you know, your beliefs in afterlife and things like that, but it's just nice to imagine. I mean, why not have comfort in something? If you think that your great-grandfathers are hawks, and that's awesome. I hope they are. Same thing with the Cardinals. If you believe they're Cardinal, like, I hope he is. I don't know, it's just so cool to me that things like that happen. Even if it's just coincidence, playing devil's advocate. Even if that's all coincidence and it's just you looking for comfort in something. So I don't care. Good for you. I mean, I don't have a lot of stuff like that. I'm a sentimental person, but I don't have a lot of things like that where I'm like, oh, this palmetto bug or cockroach for northerners. This is my dog that I had when I was a kid that I barely remember. It's just coming to tick me off. I'm not going to kill it. I don't kind of do things like that, but I think it's wonderful. Responding to the first part of your story about the two men, one you don't know what happened to, the other thing happened to, excuse me, and the one that unfortunately took his life upstairs. That's... I've heard tons of stories in my life about... I mean, I don't know if this is what this was, but, you know, housemaids, groundskeepers, you know, taking their lives because they hate their jobs, they hate how they're living, they hate the people that are trying to control them. I've heard tons of stuff like that, but the fact that your family could hear the gunshot, to me, is crazy. It makes me think of a hotel. I can't think of the name of the hotel, and I don't like to look up information too much while I'm recording these, because I like to, you know, to be genuine. But there's a hotel, and in one of the rooms, there was murder in a closet, and a guy had, like, locked himself in the closet, and he started freaking out, and he had a, you know, one of those ghost tool things, and supposedly, I say supposedly so I can try to attempt to remain, you know, neutral in telling you this story. It started to make some suggestive phrasing to him, and he said it started to, like, you know, touch his neck, and it was pulling his hair. And personally, I don't know what you may believe, but the idea that energy could be so strong that it could leave, you know, residual energy that makes these sounds maybe reoccur, that's cool as hell to me. More realistically, it could just be your mind playing tricks, but I don't know, still, it's crazy. But the highlight of this story for me is that you said your family sold the farmhouse. And let me just say, they are my heroes for selling it. Now, the reason I say that is people are stupid, and people don't sell these places. They, like, let the ghosts hang out, and they'd rather stay and let their kids get possessed and let poltergeists throw crap around than just sell the damn house. I know that, you know, attachments supposedly happen, and, you know, they stick with you once you sell the house, but, like, if something happened in that house, like, let's just say for the sake of argument, and for the sake of explanation, that the energy of this guy, unfortunately committing suicide, stayed in the house. And that's why they can hear the gunshot, and for the other man, they can hear the shackles. That's clearly attached to the house, not the people. The people, you didn't tell me the people were being affected. So yeah, get out! Sell it! Give it away for free and let squatters have it, as far as I'm concerned. Hey, that's just me. Alright. Oh, another anonymous. Don't worry if you guys stay anonymous, it doesn't bother me one bit. I totally get it. If I put in something too scary or too personal, I would definitely stay anonymous too. So, basically they're saying, my brother and I were staying in an old motel in the middle of nowhere. The building had been in use for over 100 years. So I'm guessing like 1800s, maybe 1900s. My brother loves this place and has frequented it many times over the years. One time I was kept up all night by somebody pacing around on the hardwood floors in the room above ours. It was driving me nuts. So in the morning, when I saw my brother, I asked him how in the world he slept through that. And he told me that it was being used as a ballroom, but now it's carpeted and empty. I went and asked the staff to make sure, and they confirmed it, and no one was there. And even if somebody was up there, there's no way I would have heard it, especially heels on hardwood floor, because it was carpeted. Wow. That's scary. I'm trying to think of an explanation, but maybe... I mean, you said it's old, so to be fair, it definitely could be, you know, old infrastructure of the house, the supports of the house, whatever. But, it's scary. Especially because the staff confirmed it. Oh, I wish you would have asked the staff if they had ever heard anything like that. That would have been a good question. I wonder if there's ever been a place, a hotel, motel, restaurant, whatever, that's had to close due to stuff like that. I remember where I went to high school. I went to high school in Florida, and there was like this really cool restaurant that had train tracks right behind it. And I remember friends always telling me that supposedly the place was really haunted, and that like even the staff knew, and it was like worked into the selling of the restaurant. That stuff to me is fascinating, but sometimes I wonder how true it is, because it could just be marketing. By marketing, like, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that the staff went upstairs and knocked on the side of the room where there was wood, or they have something set up to scare people, but it's possible. I mean, let's say you're this hotel, and you're gonna make $20 in a month normally, but you could make $40 if you played something over Bluetooth that sounded like wood creaking and scared somebody. Every business owner in the world is gonna do the thing that makes them that 20 extra bucks. Really great story, though. I want to believe it's true. Alright, what's next? Oh, I love when one says this might involve a demon, heads up. That's my favorite. Thanks for doing that. I cannot wait to read your story about a demon. So, my whole family traveled to a place in Europe, and we stayed in a small little house that was owned by somebody that knew my dad. The people that owned it said they rarely visited, and they gave it to us basically without my dad having to pay anything, and we got to stay there for a little over a week. It was a long couple days later, and we had driven down... I'm reading these as I go, so forgive me, but it was driven down a steep way. I'm assuming you meant steep driveway. And it was towards a mill. Okay. A wheel sat alongside a house. There was a cellar with stairs down the wheel next to the house. And there was a river around the entire place. We went into the house, and we each picked a room, and the house was cold. I assumed it was from nobody using it. We settled in, and we turned on the heat, and the house still was cold and actually felt kind of damp. So we listened to some audiobooks and just hung out, and my parents eventually went to bed. It was past midnight, and they all woke up at exactly the same time, and the door to their bedroom was opening slowly. So at first, they thought it was my sister, until they saw a large, dark silhouette of a man framed in a doorway standing still, just staring at them. After a time, the shape turned and started to move, almost as if it was satisfied, and it just left. They looked at each other but didn't speak, and they went back to sleep. I don't know if I believe in demons, but the next day the house was warm and kind of hot. They both agreed, even though they were skeptics, that there was something in the house deciding their worth. I don't know how much I believe in this stuff, but the story stuck with me, even as I've grown older. That's one heck of a last submission. Wow. That's horrifying. I told a story like this, too, in a podcast, a couple podcasts ago, and that I was being chased by a shadow, and it caused sleep paralysis. And I wonder if, when you said that they woke up and were staring at the door opening and they saw a silhouette, kind of sounds like it could have been sleep paralysis. And the fact that they didn't, get up and follow it, because if they said it turned and they walked away, then realistically, if they weren't paralyzed, they would get up to make sure you and your siblings were okay. It sounds like it could have been sleep paralysis, which is, horrifying. But I definitely do have a big belief that, there's demonic presence and stuff. I've gone on way too many Google and YouTube deep dives for there not to be. Thank you for your submission. That was a crazy one. It's a heck of a last one, too. If you want to send me stories like this, you can do that at sspice.twitch@gmail.com. That's sspice.twitch@gmail.com. And I will read it on here. Just let me know if you want your name read, or like all these people, you want to remain anonymous. Shorter, longer, doesn't matter. Crazy stuff. I appreciate all the submissions, guys. So now, as just a little fun way to end this, I have a pretty cool plan coming up for next week. We are going to do our first morning live stream, where it's just kind of me hanging out, drinking coffee, watching YouTube, talking with you guys. It would mean a lot to me if you guys came and hung out on twitch.tv/missingpixel. The I in pixel is a lowercase l. Original, I know. And just hung out with me, drank some coffee, and watched some videos. We'll throw it back to the morning latte. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to the 8th bit. I was Missing Pixel. I hope you enjoyed your time. I really enjoyed it with you. And I will see you on the next episode. Finger guns.